I am Katrina Roundtree and welcome to the show about the most complex and the most joyous organism on the planet, your family. And just like your favourite local doctor, we'll help you tackle all of the problems in family life. The only difference is you can drop into our family practice every single day.
The doctor will see you now. Just go straight in.
Now tell me, what seems to be the problem?
On Family Practice, we'll ask the experts. We'll go through all of the latest research and look at the personal stories to help you on the road to a healthier, happier family. And of course, I will not be attempting to do this on my own. We have a couple of wonderful, very experienced doctors who truly understand children and also their carers. We have GP, Dr. Shane Woods, and clinical psychologist, Dr. John Blythe. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Katrina.
Hi, Katrina.
Now, I think that there is so much medical advice going around. I know that for me, I Google absolutely everything. Shane, can I ask you first, is this a hindrance or is it a help?
I love Dr. Google. The patients come in, they have pages and pages of research they've already done. And I think, oh, this is great. And they often know more about it than what I do. So after sorting that all through, and then we work out what the facts are from some non-facts, you know, it's a very good thing to help us start and think about what we're going to discuss.
So in your case, too much information is never enough?
Oh, I think the information needs to be filtered and sorted, which is primarily my role as the general practitioner. But I love it that it stimulates thought and conversation, and it really helps get things started.
Yeah. Must be nice to tell people what they don't have.
Yes, yes, yes.
That lovely moment when
Let's go through the list.
No, you basically...
Let's go through the list. Now, John is definitely an expert in every way. Not only is he a psychologist, but he has many, many children. Please share your story.
Yeah, I'm the father of 8.
What?
Yes, yeah, get over that. So it's a constant joke when I'm talking to families where I say, whatever I tell you, it's not theory. It's not just something I've read in a book, but I do read books. But most of this is stuff I've got to go home and do and actually live. So that usually makes it a little bit more practical.
Now, we'll be calling in the experts to help us with each of our key topics today. You think you're safe, but the game keeps changing. You'll be their Facebook friend. You've got a child-friendly filter, but the barrage of social media never stops. What do you do when your child wants to connect?
He got really, really angry and he was like constantly having brain explosions. He'd be throwing furniture.
It's the headline-grabbing condition of the day.
Psychological dependence, psychotic episodes and severe depression.
Every day, a different story. ADHD, is it real? And what are your options?
In there and Mum jumped up on the bed screaming, "I'm dressed, I'm dressed." I was like, okay, like, I don't know what's happening.
Sex when there are children in the house. Should you do it? How to stay intimate and what to say if the worst happens.
I can still remember that moment of her just jumping up and it's burned into my brain, that yellow floral dress.
All right then, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, Instagram. There is such an avalanche of social media taking over our children's lives. It can actually lead to abuse in some cases. It can lead to self-harm and sadly, sometimes even suicide. But it's changing so quickly that I feel for me, just as I'm getting my head around one form of information, one app, a whole new lot emerges. Do you find it confusing as well, what's going on with social media?
It does take away some of the time that I feel that they should be outside playing and doing more physical things and enjoying a one-on-one interaction with friends. And that concerns me a little bit. I think there needs to be a very definite balance about that. What do you think, John?
Well, it begs the question, is it social media or is it actually anti-social
You're quite
media?
right, yeah.
And we're all kind of torn, aren't we, with our kids at the moment, because it is definitely social and they're connecting and they're talking and they're interacting, but it can be so anti-social and things can go wrong so quickly, and we're just all trying to catch up. Programming the VCR was the biggest problem that my dad had, but we've got a whole new world of technology and there's so much to grapple with.
So, John, it's a fact that at every point we will have our child ask us, I want to go on Facebook, I want to
He has
connect.
8. 8 are going to ask you.
You've got 8 who are going to ask you this. What is your advice to parents who will be faced with this question?
Look, it is, for me, just so fundamental to put it into perspective. Would you take your child and drop them off at the local park with 100 strangers and say, go chat to whoever you want to, and I'll pick you up in an hour? You know, that would horrify us. We talk about stranger danger all of the time. It's such a strong message in our schools. And yet when our kids are on these apps and they're wired into the internet, they have access to and people have access to them that is just so frightening. So we've got a whole new sort of set of parameters we've got to think through.
All right, so to help us with some specialist advice is our psychologist and school counsellor, Jocelyn Brewer. So, Jocelyn, what do you think of all of this?
Oh, look, it's a minefield, absolutely, and it's about getting information, as much information, and looking for the positives and balancing out some of those negatives.
Yes.
Just knowing how to use things. If I gave you a soccer ball, you'd know what to do with that soccer ball. You kind of know the limits of it. So we really have to get into this complex organism and have a look at it and go, okay, how do we change our settings? How can we actually communicate and get the best out of it to connect and to, you know, set up that face-to-face meeting down at the park where we're going to kick that soccer ball around, a very old school kind of way.
Communication's key.
I like the word balance. I think that needs to keep coming out a lot.
We do also need to chat about the fact that there are some very scary stories going on around at the moment.
If you want to tune into our teens, turn up your technology use.
I guess to a teenager, spending 7 hours a day with their technology isn't a job, it's a lifestyle.
And it's all about multitasking. While they're online, 62% watch TV, 50% talk on the phone, and 28% text. 15-year-old Amelia Halley is one of these modern-day multitaskers.
Such an idiot, Dolly.
She spends around 4 hours online each night, but she feels even that isn't enough.
My friends always say how I'm not on Facebook as much, and they get angry and they say you're never on Facebook, but for what I am, it's still quite a lot.
Her mum agrees.
It's a valuable tool. It can also be a huge time waster, and I think you need to know your child and know whether or not they're going to be using it or if it's going to be using them.
Surprisingly, only half of families have rules when it comes to teenagers in the wireless world. An alarming figure, considering a quarter of teenagers have computer access in their bedroom, away from the watchful eyes of parents.
And that's where potential family problems could come into play.
With the hours soaring, so does the price, and it hurts as many families see an end to old-fashioned and far cheaper entertainment. The number of minutes teens spend reading a newspaper each day, 15. And the message to anyone refusing to move with the younger crowd:
suck it up, because technology, it ain't going anywhere.
Alyssa Warren, 9 News.
I think there's some really good advice in there, but can we just assume I do not know any of the latest gizmos. I don't know what's in, what's out. Can you just let us know, is Facebook the major one?
Facebook is the king of social media, and despite the fact that some people are moving away from it, they still have their Facebook accounts. They just tend to have some of the microsites as well, so things like Kik or Ask.fm, Instagram, and they do slightly different things. And while you might be friends with your mum on Facebook, you're still using some of these other ones on the side.
What's Ask.fm? Is that a radio station?
Ask.fm is sounds like it, but it's more like an anonymous Dolly Doctor, where Dolly Doctor actually isn't a doctor. It's just another teenager with an idea or an opinion
that they can go on, and you won't know if you're linked into them on Facebook that they're in another website.
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, basically, what it's anonymous. It encourages anonymity. So you might have a question about sex or about dieting or about, you know, I don't know, why is the sky blue? And really what it's doing is getting crowdsourcing information and answers.
But what's the quality of that response?
And it's unlike Dolly Doctor, where we had an expert replying.
Exactly.
Here we have children replying to children.
Potentially.
How old do you have to be to go on this site?
Well, I mean, each of the sites are slightly different. Facebook, you're not supposed to join up until you're 13.
13.
But Facebook encourages you to use your own full name. So you can't be, you know, Lamington Fairy on Facebook. They're actually going to say, hold on, that's not your name.
Right.
Whereas on something like Kik or Ask FM, you can be sort of whatever avatar you come up with for yourself.
So I'm getting a feeling that Ask FM, as a parent, you should be wary about that one.
Absolutely.
What is Kik FM? Is that right? Did
Kik,
No.
Yeah, Kik, not FM.
It's not Kik. Okay.
It's not a radio station
Kik,
either.
sorry.
Yeah. Kik is like a text messaging service, and it's free. It uses the internet and your data limits rather than you know, the actual cellular network.
But no pictures.
Can do pictures.
Oh.
Kind of like Snapchat.
We're all
Snapchat's
worried.
another one where you can just send a little photo of maybe your...
What advice are you giving to students
Everybody's
about
worried.
photos? I'll just go straight to it. What advice are you giving to people?
You should think of a photo like a tattoo. A photo on the internet is probably harder to remove than this on my wrist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Which leads me to my next question. Sexting.
Yeah.
Puts the fear of God into me. So, what's your advice on this particular subject?
Again, what is as everything we do, we want a reaction from. So the question is, why? What do you actually want to say? What are you trying to negotiate? And generally with sexting, it's again, like me, look at this part of me or let me show you part of me. Probably a part that you're not ready to show to somebody to try and get their affection and attention.
Yes.
Also, something that we were talking about before, I know you touched on, was the social side. It's bizarre. We call it social media, and yet it is so not.
Antisocial.
You were worried about how you divvy up your time between devices and getting outside, getting activities. What's your advice on this?
Well, the big question I get asked is, well, doctor, how long should my child be spending on its device? And after quite significant research, I haven't been able to find a very good answer about these questions anywhere. So
it's very developmental though, because if you
At
say,
what age, at what
if I do my
stage?
HSC and I was only on a computer for 2 hours a day, I'd say, dude, you're probably not doing enough
for
work.
2 hours a day. See, to me, that sounds like a very large amount of time. I would have thought half an hour. And then you ask other people and they say, well, we can't deny our children the access to the computer because then they'll become antisocial with their friends.
It comes back down to what they're doing.
You're talking about students using it for school, using social media for school, but can it at some point lower your IQ as well? Because I heard about memory retention.
Great question, Katrina.
Thank you, Shane.
Well, look, IQ, and you can help me out here too, IQ is generally a fairly static construct. You can do some things to help some of the thinking skills that you have, but in terms of your working memory ability, you can build it up with some different strategies, but generally, I mean, social media itself isn't going to help improve your IQ. It's not going to take away from it, but it's certainly not going to...
Well, it's not going to let you use the IQ you've got. Now, when kids are on these devices and they're saying, but I've got homework to do and I need it for my homework, how much real quality homework is going on? And how much is that 4 hours that I'm connected to the Wi-Fi at home doing other things? And so, you know, from a management point of view as parents, one of the things that it's tough to do, but we've got to think through is do these other things first. You've got some responsibilities, some duties, you've got some engagement factors with the family. When they're done, media should be a reward. It should be the thing you earn by doing other things that we've got to do in life first. And it's not happening that way in very many families.
Could you please give us some advice for Mike, who's in the audience now? We have children the same age. Mike, you've got a 3-year-old. What's your question?
Well, we've got a few iPads around the house, so do we let them use it because they're always trying to grab it and wanting to play on it?
All right, that's a great question. I'd like to know the answer as well. Don't worry, I'm going to give you plenty of time to have a think about that, and we'll be back with some of the answers right after the break. Also today, treating ADHD.
Psychological dependence, psychotic episodes and severe depression.
And what to do if you get a surprise intruder.
I think I was just like, oh, okay, well, you know, that's what you're doing. I think I figured out that they were having sex, but I really didn't care.